Preach the word, brother.
Well, today is a special day as we honor several of our high school seniors. We are excited for you seniors. You reached a new milestone in life. You're going to be turning the page and opening a new chapter in your lives, and it's just a very, very good thing. And we want to honor you today, recognize you with a luncheon and a reception afterwards, and we want everyone to stay who wants to eat and celebrate with us. If you can, we would love to have you join us. Several of you have made plans. You seniors have made plans for the next step into the future. Maybe work full-time for a while. Maybe enlist into the military, maybe enter into college or a trade school. Lots of opportunities, lots of exciting things to be coming your way. But even with all the different decisions you make about what am I going to do, where am I going to work, where am I going to live, all those kinds of things, there's two other decisions that are the most important decisions we make of our lifetime. They'll affect your lives more than anything else that you decide upon. The second one is who you marry, and we'll talk about that another day. The first decision, the most important decision you make in your lives, is not where you're going to work, what kind of job you're going to do, what kind of school you're going to go to, all those kinds of things. The single most important decision you make is whether or not you're going to live for Jesus. That's the number one most important decision that you'll make. And I want us to we'll look mostly in the Old Testament this morning. I'll be in the book of Joshua part of the time. But Joshua was a great leader for God's people. He took over after Moses died. God appointed Joshua to take his place and lead the Israelites into the promised land. And God gave them victory after victory. God was doing it. God was leading them. And God was providing the victories to them. And Joshua was faithful. So when the dust begins to settle, the smoke begins to clear, Joshua makes some monumental, colossal statements about what's happened. How they were in the land of Egypt, how they were enslaved, how God put the plagues on the Egyptians, how the Red Sea was parted, and they went out into the wilderness for 40 years. Of course, only Joshua and Caleb were the only ones over the age of 20 that got to go into the promised land. Everyone else, the reason they had to wander around in the wilderness was for those over the age of 20 who did not believe God, that they would die in the wilderness. They wouldn't get to go into the promised land. And those that are coming up, children and so on, they're being taught. And so all these things have happened, all these, the victory, especially over Egypt. And now Joshua, a lot of the territories have been taken. And so Joshua says this, Joshua chapter 23, verse 3, he says, "And you have seen all that the Lord your God has done to all these nations because of you. For the Lord your God is he who has been fighting for you." And in verse 6 through 8, he says, "Be very firm then, to keep and do all that is written in the book of the law of Moses, so that you may not turn aside from it to the right hand or to the left, in order that you may not associate with these nations, these which remain among you, or mention the name of their gods, or make anyone swear by them, or serve them, or bow down to them. But you are to cling to the Lord your God, as you have done to this day." And then in verse 11, "So take diligent heed to yourselves, to love the Lord your God." And then, of course, in verse 14 and 15 in chapter 24, Joshua says this, "Now, therefore, fear the Lord, respect, stand in awe of God and what he has done, who he is and what he has done. Fear the Lord and serve him in sincerity and truth. Put away the gods which your fathers served beyond the river and in Egypt, and serve the Lord. And if it is disagreeable in your sight to serve the Lord, choose for yourselves today whom you'll serve, whether the gods which your fathers served, which were beyond the river, or the gods of the Amorites in whose land you are living. But as for me and my household, we will serve the Lord. As for me and my household, we will serve the Lord. And so my charge is to the seniors today, but really to all of us. Everything in our lives, above everything, must be Jesus Christ. We have to live right, do what's right, follow what God teaches, even if we have to stand alone. And that happens sometimes. We need to be like Joshua. Everybody around you may not be faithful, but we need to say like Joshua, you know what? As for me and my household, I'm going to serve the Lord. We're going to serve the Lord, even if we have to stand alone. And so I would recommend, make Joshua 24:15, chapter 24, verse 15, make it one of the anchors of your life. There should be a number of scriptures that you nail down that's one that I'm going to live by. Here's a life verse here for me. Here's another life verse. Joshua 24, verse 15 should be a life verse. As for me and my household, we're going to serve God. We're not going to get into all these other things. We're not going to let other things get in the way. God's going to be number one. And even if I have to stand alone, I'm going to do that because that's better than giving in. So we're going to focus on a couple of truths that are related as to what happens when we stand alone and we say, I don't care what everybody else does, I'm going to serve God. Sometimes we're standing alone. And the thing is, we can start to think, well, I'm all alone, when the reality is we really are not all alone. There are others who are standing up for doing what is right and living for God that a lot of times we don't know about. You know, a common statement that we hear in culture is, everybody's doing it. So what's the hang up? Why won't you do this or do that? Look at so-and-so, look at how they, you know they are, and you hang out with them some and so on. They're living like this. And the implication is it's not so bad. If everybody's doing it, it must be okay. Whether it's drugs, alcohol, sexual immorality, pornography, ripping people off, inappropriate language, partying like a wild person. The truth is, not everybody is doing it. There are some good people out there that are trying to live for the Lord that you don't know about. And so you know what? I'm going to stand. I'm going to do what's right. I'm going to follow God. You know what? Even if I have to stand alone, and I need to remember, reality is I'm not actually all alone. Have to be selective in who you hang around with, because that will determine a lot of your behavior. 1 Corinthians 15, verse 33, bad company corrupts good morals. If you're hanging around with the wrong people, and they're doing things wrong. I lived like that, but after I became a Christian, I would still hang out sometimes with some of the people that I used to do all kinds of things with. But I had one thing in mind. I got to convert them. I got to reach them. So my thing is, if you're hanging out with somebody that's bad for you and you know it's not right in the sight of God, if you can't convert them, you need to get away, because eventually bad company will corrupt good morals. And so and we have to accept that responsibility. I mentioned a few weeks ago, one of our sons, Michael, said, 6 boys, so he probably says it often, you show me your friends, and I will show you your future. And that's a very true, very, very true proverb. That you hang around with the wrong people, if you can't convert them, what are you doing there? Eventually they're going to pull you down with them. Elijah is amazing. Elijah goes up against 450 prophets of Baal. And there's 400 prophets of the Asherah, the female deity, and Elijah goes up against them with God's power. The whole altar's burned up, everything. The water's sucked up, everything is burned up. And it's an amazing victory. And then Jezebel says, well, I'm going to kill that Elijah if I get my hand. She's all, and Elijah hears about it. He goes out and he runs and he says, God, just take my life. You have this mountaintop experience. It's not unusual to have kind of a downtime. And Elijah just wants to die. And he says, I'm the only one. I'm the only one that's faithful. The problem with thinking like that is it's not accurate. And God says, no, there's 7,000 who have not bowed their knee to serve these other gods. There are all kinds of people out there that are still being faithful. When you think, I'm all alone, I'm the only one not doing this, I'm the only one that's actually living right, everybody else is over there, the temptation is, well, then go do it with them. God's word says no. Stand alone. If you have to, stand alone, but you continue to do what is right. There's great young people in this church family if you end up staying here. There's good Christians. If you go off to school somewhere, go out of town, go out of state, go out of country, whatever it is, you find people that are striving to live right. Convert other people to Jesus, but maybe it's good to have a good Christian friend partner with you, like Jesus, sending them out 2 by 2. And have somebody with you, because unless you're going to go it alone and you can really handle it, you need to find a good Christian friend and team up with them. But you'll feel good about yourself when you align yourself with Jesus, but we know too much. Then if we live the other way, we know we're not going to be happy. The reality is, it feels good to do what's right, especially when it's hard. It's hard to do because everybody else is doing it, but I'm not going to do it. God has a way of rewarding, but we're going to talk about, but even if, we're still not going to do what's wrong. We're going to do what's right. We feel good about ourselves, standing up for what's right because we know about our relationship with God. And we have to remember, God's always with us. With Joshua, God was with him. With Elijah, God was with him. People that live for Jesus, they can know with confidence, God is always with me. So me and God make a majority. I don't have to be beat down and feel like I'm all alone. I mean, that's a bad feeling, to feel like I don't have anybody. I'm all alone. Sometimes it's just a matter of having somebody with you, but when you know God's always with me. If I do what is right, the last thing I want to do is abandon God and then be off with these people. I'd rather be with God, be by myself. Joshua chapter 1, Joshua provides a great, the writing of Joshua chapter 1 is great for us about standing up and knowing that God is with us. God tells Joshua in verse 5, no man will be able to stand before you all the days of your life. Just as I have been with Moses, I will be with you. I will not fail you. I will not forsake you, God says. Be strong and courageous. Be strong and courageous again, he says. In verse 9, he says, have I not commanded you, be strong and courageous? Do not tremble or be dismayed, for the Lord your God is with you wherever you go. So we just do what's right, and we know that God is with us. I'm not going to worry about it. I'm not in charge. God is in charge, and I'm going to do what's right. The result is God is going to bless us if we will do what's right, especially when it's hard. And that's the other point that I want to talk about, which is a guaranteed victory. When we say, I'm going to stand up, I'm going to do what's right, sometimes if I fail, guess what? I'm going to repent, and I'm going to come back to God. And when we come back to God with a sincere heart, the arms of God, like the father of the prodigal son, God will welcome us back. But we want to try not to go there in the first place. But if we're living for God and we're standing alone when it's right, God has a way of blessing, guaranteed victory. I mean, good things happen to Joshua because of his faithfulness in not going over here, not going over there, staying the course, staying close to God. And Joshua didn't earn the blessings. We don't deserve anything. But God does bless those who will do what's right. I think a biblical truth I see from Genesis to Revelation is that God always blesses people who will do what is right, especially if it's hard. He'll find a way to bless. Now, it might not be exactly what we were thinking of, but usually it's going to be better. God wants to bless people that will stand up, do what's right, especially when it's hard. And we won't be standing alone, and we'll know that. The reason Joshua chapter 24, verse 15 is so important is because it speaks directly to your future. I will, into the future. As for me and my household, we will. We will serve God. We serve Him now. We will continue to serve God. And it's very important to have that peg driven down into the ground of your faith that you know that you're going to stay there. You know, in culture and society is, you know what, nice guys finish last. You're kind of doing what's right, standing alone. That's a bad idea. Nice guys finish last. The point is you do whatever you got to do to get ahead, because otherwise you're going to get run over. And it sounds good. Statement sounds true, but I've seen some very successful people that are good Christian people who do what's right. a good friend of mine who's wealthy but doesn't care, tries to give as much of it away as he can, and he was in partnership with a guy. And things started to fall apart back in the 80s, and the partner bailed on him, left all of it on him. And he said, I'm going to just do what's right, figure it out. I may go bankrupt, I may just go belly up the whole way, I'm just going to do what's right. I mean, within a couple of years, he was so blessed. The other guy wasn't. But God blessed him for his faithfulness, and he just tries to give it away, where he's always watching for opportunities to be a blessing to other people. So the idea that you got to be, it's a dog-eat-dog, you got to be kind of nasty if you need to be, to do what you got to do. That's saying, God, I'm in control. Better to say, I'm going to do what's right, let God be in control, and God will bless me for it. It's always wise to stand up and just do what is right and be a Christian about it. I don't care if you're playing ball, or you're working in a store, or you're in the military, wherever you are. We need to be protective of the name of God. We don't ever want anybody saying, and he said he's a Christian? She's a Christian, really? Man, there couldn't be more cutting words that could be said. We want to stand up, do what's right in the sight of God. And by doing that, what we do is we don't make money or success or career our number one goal. Let's say you get sucked into making money and you have a great career, and then you die. Because, we're going to be dead, be on the other side of this life. We're going to live on in eternity, no end. So we maybe got 20, 40, 60, 80 years, whatever it is on this life, but then we're going to be somewhere else forever. And I don't want to sacrifice this life, or sacrifice eternal life for this life. No way. There's no comparison. I love the saying, I hate it, but I love it. It's something to keep in mind. A rich person without God is just a poor man with money. A rich person without God, you're just a poor person with money. The point is that there's no trailer hitches on the back of a hearse. You can't they're not going to bury you with your money and all your whatever you got in this life. It's what you do in this life with your relationship with God that will have a lasting effect on you. The wise thing to do, build our lives around Jesus above everything else. Then we'll be truly successful in the sight of God. God will give us the ultimate victory, and what happens in this life, that's secondary. Primary is God. As for me and my household, we'll serve the Lord. Book written several years ago, maybe not several decades, but a few decades ago, the Stephen Covey book, The 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. It's interesting statement that he makes about personality ethic versus character ethic. He said, as my study took me back, I went back 200 years looking at the history of our country and so on, and some of the writings. I noticed something, a startling pattern emerging in the context of the literature I was reading. I began to feel more and more that much of the success literature of the past 50 years was superficial. It was filled with social image consciousness, techniques, and quick fixes, with social band-aids and aspirin that addressed acute problems and sometimes even appeared to solve them temporarily, but left the underlying chronic problem untouched to fester and resurface time and again. In the stark contrast, almost all the literature, the first 150 years of our country were founded on and spoke of the character ethic as the foundation if you want to be successful. Things like this: integrity, humility, fidelity, temperance, courage, justice, patience, industry, simplicity, modesty, the golden rule. The character ethic taught that there are basic principles of effective living, and that people can only experience true success and enduring happiness as they learn and integrate these principles into their basic character. But shortly after World War II, the basic view of success shifted from that character ethic to personality ethic. Success became more a function of personality, public image, of attitudes and behaviors, skills, techniques. This personality ethic took two paths. One was human and public relations techniques. The other was positive mental attitude. Some of this philosophy was expressed in inspiring and sometimes valid maxims such as, your attitude determines your altitude. Smiling wins more friends than frowning. And so the personality ethic is, I'll pretend I'm something. I'll speak this way. I'll act this way. But that's not really who I am. And the character ethic is, no, I'm not operating on pretense. I'm not going to do what I need to do to be successful and be really kind of a conniver, not really genuine, phony. He says other parts of the personality approach were clearly manipulative. So you're manipulating, acting a certain way to get what you want, rather than it really being who you are. It's deceptive, encouraging people to use techniques to get other people to like them, to fake interest in the hobbies of others, to get out of them what you want, or to use the power look and to intimidate their way through life. And his point is the character ethics are, I'm going to be humble, I'm going to be honest, I'm going to be grateful, I'm going to be trustworthy. Those are the kind of things that are effective for a Christian who says, I'm going to do what's right. I'm not going to do what's right so I can get my way. I'm going to do what's right because it's right in the sight of God, because of my character developed, because of my relationship with Jesus Christ. Well, Stephen Covey wasn't the first one to teach these things. 2,000 years ago, Jesus taught all of these things and more. I would say Stephen Covey was a little bit of a copycat, but in a good way. But the upshot is this. It's much better to work on the inside person. Then the outside will be genuine. But if you work only on the outside, you're going to be phony and dishonest, disingenuous, and people are going to see through it, and you're in control rather than I'm going to serve the Lord. I'm going to do things my way. Instead, we need to do things by the way Jesus did them. If God is with us, then we are truly successful. Psalm 23, the Lord is my shepherd, I shall not want. Oh man, God's just taking care of me all the time. But verse 4 says, even though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I fear no evil, for you're with me, your rod and your staff comfort me. So it's not always going to be easy. The Lord is my shepherd, but guess what? Sometimes I'll walk through the valley of the shadow of death. So sometimes things are hard in life. Sometimes things are unfair, and people do us wrong. But you know what? I'm not going to cheat, do things immorally. I'm going to serve God. I'm going to do what's right and give God a chance to bring a victory out of it in some way. God said to Joshua, just as I have been with Moses, I will be with you. I will not fail you or forsake you. He says again in verse 9, be strong and courageous, for the Lord your God is with you wherever you go. And so I'm going to do what's right, stand up for what is right, even if I stand alone. God's going to be with me. There are others around me who are faithful. And God's going to bless me in ways that I wasn't expecting. Because God will always bless people who will do what is right, especially when it's hard. Not talking necessarily about money. There are lots of other things that are involved in life other than money. Back in the 80s, 87 to 95, for 8 years in a row, I went to Camp Bandina when we came to the church in Brownsville on the border of Mexico. The elders told me one of the things that you'll need to do, is when I was visiting with them about the possibility, is we want you to be involved in the youth camp. And I said, okay, I had never been to a camp, I never heard of a camp. As growing up, I didn't have that background and so on. I had 8 years of the 16 to 18-year-old boys, like wild stallions, about 20 of them every year, sleep with one eye open, sleep by the door. There's another door. The other guy that was helping me, he slept by the other door because, 16 to 18-year-old, you never know what is gonna happen. But the last night of camp, they had like skits like Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Friday night were the spiritual skits put on by the oldest teenagers, the 16 to 18-year-old boys and girls. So girls did their own thing, guys did their own thing. They might mix them together sometimes. But all of this took place in the cafeteria area and where we ate. A couple hundred kids, I guess, 150 or 200 young people. And the Swans, those are the 16 to 18-year-old girls. Prior to the song Go Light the World, which we used to sing, I don't know what happened to it, but we used to sing that song. Prior to that song, the girls did a skit that night. All the campers are in the cafeteria, and all of a sudden, they shut down all the lights, dark as could be. And except for one area, there was an area where there were 20 girls, and they were in a circle, and they were all holding a lit candle. You didn't see the candle when the lights were all on. They turned all the lights off, and you saw, here's all these girls holding a candle. They represented them following Jesus, being the light of the world. Then one by one, the girls blew their candles out, went around the circle, and got all the way down to where there's one girl left. And her candle's the only one. And it went on for a while. We just sat there waiting what's going to happen. One candle. And finally you see the candle move, and she lights the candle to her left. And the girl there lights the candle to her left, and it went all the way around until all the candles were lit up again. It was pretty amazing. It gives me goosebumps just thinking about it. But there's some applications there for us. One is, even if everybody else falls away and turns away, you seniors have to remain faithful. If you're all alone, big deal. God's with me. I'm just going to do what's right. I'm going to keep my candle lit, and I'm going to stay faithful to Jesus no matter what. All of us. Seniors, adults, all of us. Secondly, when we stand firm in our faith, even if we're standing alone, the Lord will use our candle to light other candles. God will use us. Somebody could end up in heaven because you keep your candle lit. You keep doing what's right, even if you're standing alone. God's going to bring something. You know what? Who's he going to trust? He's got to bring these lost people to someone, not you people, anybody, okay? God's he'll know that he can trust you. And if he can trust you because you're going to live right and follow Jesus, not earning your way to heaven, but you're saved by the grace of God, and you love Jesus, and you want to live for him, and it means even if I have to stand alone, I'm going to do it. God knows there's somebody I can trust, and God will bring them to you. And you know what? You may end up bringing them to the Lord. They become a Christian, and guess what? You become best friends. And you get down the road, and you're in your 40s, and you're still hanging out. Still, maybe you don't see each other all the time, but you know what? You might not see each other for 10 years, but when you see each other, you just pick up right where you left off. You still have that unbelievable relationship. I have it with some people. Some of you have it with people that you haven't seen for a long time, and it's based on Jesus Christ, on your candles being lit. And you never know. You may marry that person, hopefully the opposite sex. And, you may convert some guy, you girls, or a girl convert some guy, vice versa. You got your candle lit. It may be God leads that person because you've been praying. The number 2 decision in my life, biggest decision, is who I marry. And so I pray, God, you lead me to somebody. I have people sometimes in the recovery group, and they're still insane, living in that insanity. And I tell them, you know what? Do not, here's the deal. Don't date anybody. What you do is, if some guy asks you out, you tell him I'm already seeing a guy. His name is Jesus. You get your life right with Jesus first. Otherwise, you're going to end up with somebody bad. So we have to have our own candle lit. I've had people get mad at me about it, but that's just a reality. You get your life together with God, now you're more qualified. You can make better decisions as to who you're going to marry. Number 3, everyone who has a candle lit needs to assume responsibility to light somebody else's candle. If I've been saved by the grace and mercy of God, I have a responsibility, a stewardship from God. And I'm praying, God, use me. I pray, God, use me. I pray that all the time. I pray for God to use our church family. English and Spanish, for God to use us. We're a good place to bring a lost soul to. We don't push, we don't pressure, we don't judge, but we can share Jesus as people who really love the Lord. And people are looking for that, and we want to be there for them and be mindful of it when we say, I assume some responsibility and stewardship. So seniors, a major change in your life is about to take place. You're going to have more freedom than you ever had. Make more decisions on your own. The decisions you make in the months ahead and the years ahead will determine where you're going to be 10, 20, 30 years from now. And they're going to determine when you meet Jesus. So if you stand up and do what's right out of a love for God and a reverential awe of God, and you follow Jesus, I promise you, you will never regret it. And if you get down the road 40 years and I'm still around, please God, no. But if I am, come and see me. I'll give you your money back. Okay? We just got to do what's right, and give God some time to work things out. And you may be a senior here today and maybe says, you know, I never have got my candle lit. I never have given my life to Jesus. It's a good day to be baptized into Christ, sins washed away by the blood of the Lamb, not by the water, but that where you say, I don't want to live, I want to live for Jesus, 100%. This is a great day to do that. Or you may be here, not just seniors, but any of us that here that we can pray for in some way, help you in any way with your walk with God. We would be greatly honored if you'll come while we stand and sing together.